And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson, and a recurring guest here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show, Russell Gaudet, is back with us to preview this season's MLB year. Opening day is just around the corner, maybe about 3 days now. I think Thursday we are starting opening day. Technically, the season has started with the series that's got down between the Padres and the Dodgers so far. So we had a couple games already start in technically for this season, but officially opening day is this upcoming Thursday, and I know all of us here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show are certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'd like to thank Russell for coming and joining us once again. I know he's kind of becoming our local MLB expert, and we're just happy to have you back again. I think it was the last time you were on this show for MLB was July, if I'm not mistaken.
It
So
was
it's
here
been a
for our
while.
trade deadline show.
Yeah, it has been a while. Expert would be, I think, a stretch considering I picked. I didn't say Texas was going to make the World Series, let alone win it last year. I think I put them bottom of their respective division.
I didn't want to
Oh, I mean, I did the beginning of the, I did too at the beginning of the year, but I kind of by the All-Star break, I was kind of buying in on the Rangers.
No, you weren't the only one.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of seasons of 100 losses will put you off to a team, but happy for them. Happy for the Diamondbacks. I was rooting for them. Two young teams, two fun teams to watch.
I'm sure you were rooting for them after, especially they beat a certain team that you have a disdain for. Let's put it lightly like that.
Correct.
Yeah. But regardless, as I mentioned, opening day is in 3 days on Thursday, and we're all looking forward to it for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, some of us play fantasy baseball in this chat, so we'll look to see how our season's fare for fantasy baseball, but as of course, for our teams in general. Obviously, Russell is a Mets fan, Johnson's a Marlins fan, and I'm a Yankees fan. So we all have a very interesting season about coming forth for this upcoming MLB season. And today here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show, we're going to look into each division and who we think are going to win each respective division, as well as make the wild cards. We'll preview what they've done in the offseason and how it could help them get to the postseason this year. And then we'll go into our award show later on. We'll pick who we think is going to win Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, MVP, and then finally culminating with our AL and NL pick for this year's World Series and ultimately getting to a World Series winner. So guys, if you want to start, we could start off in the American League East, and I'll go quickly with my synopsis for the Yankees and what they did in this offseason. Obviously, Juan Soto was a big move for them. They traded with the San Diego Padres to get him to come in, as well as Trent Grisham. So they bolstered now their lineup by getting Juan Soto. They signed Alex Verdugo after getting him in a trade with the Red Sox. They got Marcus Stroman as well in a signing in free agency. So they did a couple of things this offseason where things maybe could be looking up for the team. The biggest concern now for the Yankees is the rotation-wise after these moves, because now Garrett Cole, it looks like, will be out for the first month or two of the season. So you lose your Cy Young Award winner already to start off the year. Not very, very good for the Yankees going into this season, but they are hopeful that their bats will be good enough to get them in a position to win the American League East, despite considering the fact that they missed the postseason last year. And I might take a little bit accountability for that, because I did pick them as a biased fan to make it to the World Series again last year. But I'll leave the floor to you guys and what any thoughts you have about the Yankees before I go on to the next team.
Yeah, you're going to be missing a lot of guys. You're going to be missing guys like Michael King, Higgy.
DJ LeMahieu.
DJ LeMahieu. He's not going to be there anymore.
He's on the
IL. Yeah. But you guys, seems like you're kind of giving up on your prospects. You're trading away Trey Sweeney. You're getting rid of Florial. Are you guys pushing all the chips to the table now?
Florial was bound to happen. He's been in the system so long. They kept calling him up and calling him down. That was bound to happen no matter what. So I'm not really, I'm happy he's getting a shot. I think he's in Cleveland now, so I'm thankful he's getting that shot now. Maybe he gets an everyday starting position with the Guardians, but I'm not really too upset that we lost him.
How about Drew Thorpe?
That was tough, but I think we had to make this trade. Obviously, he has been dealt around a couple times now this offseason. He was also involved in another trade, which I'll talk about later on in the show. But I think it's really going to come down to, obviously, the Yankees are in a weird spot where, yes, they have traded their prospects, but you're also seeing some of these newer guys that are being added to the team. They added, they called up Austin Wells last season. When Jason Dominguez can play the outfield, he can be obviously, we know how big of an impact he is. They might play him at some points in the season. He could still bat, but he cannot play in the field right now. He has one of those weird injuries where such situations like that happen. So the Yankees certainly obviously want to push their chips to the table because obviously think about this too. They got Juan Soto, but he is a free agent at the end of the season. And I know another person, maybe even two, maybe Johnson has the same input, but he's a free agent. And I know that teams will be certainly lobbying to get him this next offseason, considering he's still just 26 or 25 years old. I'm not sure the exact age he is right now, but he's still a very young player, and he's still in the very, early stages of his prime. So he is one of the better players in all of baseball.
Yeah, and Nick, I want to focus on something you said earlier about the pitching, especially with Garrett Cole out early. This is really going to fall down onto the top three, Stroman, Cortez, and Rodon, to hold down that part of the rotation until they get Garrett Cole back, because he is ultimately, historically, a very durable pitcher. So I think once he's back on the mound, that should really solidify things there. But that's going to be really, really important for the month of March and April.
I think the biggest concern is obviously the rotation of Rodon last season. We saw what he did in a limited time of work. He had a really bad, first year with the Yankees, and especially considering he had injuries as well. Someone to look out for this Yankee rotation that made some good strides, though, for them is Clark Schmidt. He was very good for the Yankees down the stretch of the season, and if they were to make the playoffs, he could have made a case to maybe start game one or maybe not game one, but definitely that would be Garrett Cole's spot. So definitely game number two. He could have maybe made a bid to start a game number two if the Yankees were to make a postseason berth, but he's someone I'm looking forward to this season. He was obviously in the rumored trade for potentially if they were to give up and get Juan Soto. They obviously settled on Michael King being that guy to go to San Diego in that trade. But I'm excited to see if Clark Schmidt can take another step. Obviously, the Yankees will certainly need it because with Garrett Cole out, someone has to be the next man up and be that quote-unquote essential next, maybe 1B pitcher for the Yankees up until Garrett Cole comes back. And who knows if he does come back, as he could still need Tommy John. We don't know what the situation is with him. They're going to reevaluate him in about a month's time to see if he needs it or not. But for Yankee fans, especially myself, hopefully that's not the case.
Now, I do want to go into the other teams in the AL East. We can briefly touch upon a lot of the other teams. Boston didn't do much for selling, obviously.
They traded Garrett Cole away. They got Tyler O'Neill. Oh, no, it's not Garrett Cole.
Verdugo.
They traded away Verdugo. They traded away Chris Sale. They got, as I mentioned, Tyler O'Neill from the Cardinals. I like that move for them. I think Tyler O'Neill is still a very underrated outfielder.
It'll put people in seats, but that's about it.
I think the Red Sox are in a stage where they're still in the rebuild. I think, you have your face of the franchise in Rafael Devers. And Vaughn Grissom, I think, was a good pickup for them, getting him from the Atlanta Braves. But there's still a little bit of a ways to go. Brian Bello, they got him to an extension a couple of weeks ago. He's obviously the new young guy they have in that rotation that might be the guy they look forward to being the ace of this team in the nearest future. But the Red Sox are still in a rebuilding year. I think they're just almost – I mean, obviously I don't want it to happen for a Yankee fan perspective, but I think give it another maybe another year or two, and you could probably see the Red Sox back in a position where they can make it back to the postseason.
They also got Giolito for the short term.
But keep in mind, Giolito is out for the season. He is out. He has an injury coming from. I forgot exactly what the injury was.
And Liam Hendricks.
But remember, they're both out for the season.
Yeah, Liam Hendricks is out until at least the trade deadline, I believe.
I know he's gonna be out for a while, but I didn't think it'd be that long. Jeez.
Yeah. Giolito has a torn UCL, so he's completely out for the rest of the season. He is out for the season as well as Hendricks. So the Red Sox made these moves, and Giolito, they knew what Hendricks' situation was. They knew he was going to be ready for next season. They did not know about Giolito. He got hurt during spring training, so that's one where they're going to have to kick it back to next year in 2025 to see them pitch for that Red Sox team. But yeah, this is going to be a team that's just going to be pushing towards next season and seeing where they can go from there.
Very punting. No, continue, Russ.
Oh, I was going to say, this offseason alone, they cut $20 million in payroll. So, pack that on top of having a younger team and then some more money to spend next offseason when, like you mentioned earlier, Juan Soto will be a free agent. Who knows to see what the future is, but I don't think 2024 is going to be their year.
Now, speaking of a team that traded a lot during the offseason and has been a mainstay for the AL East, and especially in the AL in the last couple of years, Tampa Bay is going to have some new faces on this team next season. We saw what they did in the offseason, trading away guys like Tyler Glasnow. He's now a Los Angeles Dodger. They got Manuel Margot to come to the team as well. They have a new dynamic now at Tampa Bay, but this is not from nothing too familiar with this team.
You
It
know the
gets to the
signing
point.
I like that kind of went under the radar.
Yeah, go ahead.
You should have mentioned. I like Rosario going there because I know
Yeah,
he's been underwhelming as a prospect his entire time in this league. Uh, but this is Tampa Bay tends to get the best out of a
they're gonna
player
make
for
it.
the
He's gonna
cheapest
be an
price.
all-star this year, knowing everyone's
He's
left.
knowing this, he'll be an all-star, and I think that's he'll be the perfect guy for this system. I like how this kind of went
And
under the radar of all
considering
the other
what
moves.
happened with Wander Franco and all that situations going down, he might be the starting shortstop for them this season. So it's a nice filler gap until they figure out what's going on with that situation.
I don't think he's ever gonna play baseball again, and that's not even giving
It's
fair.
not too I can tell you, it's not gleamy enough. It's doesn't look too pretty. But Tampa Bay, like I said, I think even with the trading of Glass now, they're probably still going to be in a position where you think they're going to be terrible or not, not as good as they used to be, and then
They're gonna win 80
they're
plus
going to find
games.
they're going to find a diamond in the rough, and then they'll win like 96 games and win the division somehow. It's
This
really doesn't make sense to me. It will never make sense to me.
They're gonna have Rasmussen come back eventually. They're gonna have McClanahan. I think he's injured as well.
Yeah.
They're gonna eventually come back, but not for a while. So again, this is another team that's kind of punting right now. Two very talented pitchers, and they're on cheap deals. So that'll be interesting to see down the line.
And we'll see what not only they do, but what the Toronto Blue Jays do as well this upcoming season. They didn't really make any too many, big time moves. They brought back Kevin Kiermaier. They signed Isaiah Kiner-Falefa from the Yankees to be now a corner infielder for them. They would sign some other players to, fill roster gaps for this team.
Danny Burgers. They got Daniel
They signed
Vogelback.
Daniel Vogelback
They
and
got
Eduardo
Joey Votto.
Escobar.
I think Votto's on a minor league deal though.
He has a minor league deal. Those are all minor league deals.
No, I'm pretty sure his contract got purchased today.
Oh,
Danny Burgers is going to be
He's gonna be on the major league roster.
Yeah, so good for him.
Yeah, they'll have Mets legends Justin Turner and Daniel Vogelback in that lineup. That should be fun to watch.
Yeah. The Blue Jays kind of seem like a team that's been, have players that were good at 2017, and they're hopefully, see if they can like rekindle a spark for this season and maybe get them back into the playoffs.
I want to know how they're what do you call it going to do the pitcher. Jeez, he escapes my name.
Alek Manoah.
Alek Manoah. I want to know how he. I know he wasn't doing great in spring training.
He had a very brutal 2022, 23. Sorry, and he got sent down. He got called back up eventually later in the season. But if he pitches like he did in 2023, the Blue Jays could be in for a long season. They still have Kevin Gossman, obviously, and Jose Barrios in the rotation. So they still have some good pitchers in that rotation. Jordan Romano, I think, is injured right now for them as well.
He is.
So that's a big loss for their bullpen. I'm not sure who's going to be doing the closer duty for this team until further notice. But yeah, they're in a weird spot right now where I don't know where they're going to end up being this upcoming season. But they still have a good roster on hand that will certainly make them, contenders in the AL. But going into the last scene, we'll talk about the team that won the division last year, the Baltimore Orioles, surprising a lot of people with how they played last year. And they are still very young, and they still they have a great roster on hand that could give them possibilities beyond belief. Now, we know that Felix Bautista is out for the season for them, so he's not going to be closing. They might have Craig Kimbrell become their new closer, depending on if they want him or Yunier Cano.
And before you can, I want to say one thing about Craig Kimbrell. He's been pitching for 15 years, and all of a sudden he has a changeup.
Yeah.
He had never thrown a changeup ever up until this past week, and all of a sudden he's adapting now. So this is a brand new pitch he has. Do you think he's actually going to use this in the regular season? Or
I mean, if it works, why not?
Did I view pitch in Little League or in high school?
I pitched in Little League. I was crap. I was so
bad. Russ?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, like, since both of you guys pitched, I know it's at a very minor level, but even when you were a kid, like, when you're debuting a new pitch, what goes through your mind? Like, especially, he's been doing this for 15 years now, and all of a sudden, he has a new pitch. What's your guys' take on this?
It's impressive that he was added to his arsenal so late into his career. It's really a 50-50 toss-up because you've never thrown it. I mean, hitters have seen a changeup, but not your changeup. So I either think that he's going to be shelled and never use it again, or it's going to be one of the most dangerous pitches that in his arsenal.
No middle ground. I kind of love that.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any middle ground there.
But keep in mind, though, what the Orioles, speaking back to the Orioles and what they've done this offseason, the biggest thing they did this offseason, they got themselves a number one starter because I feel like that was, and remember, Johnson, we talked about this at the trade deadline for them. We said that the Orioles' biggest need was a number one starter. Kyle Bradish is a very solid pitcher for them. Not sure if he
I
is a
thought
number
they had
one.
it when they had Julio Teheran. I thought he was going to be the guy, Fairy
Julio
Hawks legend,
Teheran.
but they just released him yesterday, so that's very upsetting.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The Julio Teheran hasn't been a number one starter in probably over a decade. But they did get Corbin Burns from the Milwaukee Brewers, a huge addition for this rotation. He gives you now that lockdown number one starter for this rotation, and now gives you that number one guy for the postseason if Baltimore is to get back into the postseason this year. And that was a great move for this team. I thought this was the perfect fit. You know, Burns has been looking to get out of Milwaukee for the past couple of years. He now gets his opportunity in Baltimore for a team that, as I mentioned, just won the division last year, had the best record in the American League, and still is very young and has a lot of good players, guys like Adley Rutschman, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, Gunnar Henderson. Right now, they don't have Jackson Holiday up in the majors, but you would tend
He'll
to
be called
think
up.
eventually at some point during the season he will be called up. So, yeah, there's a lot of good things to like
So
about Baltimore if you're a fan of the Orioles.
for $1.5 million, you have a year of Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rushman. Is that the greatest deal in the history of the MLB?
It felt
I'll
like
hang up and listen.
I felt like it was like the Mets from a couple of years ago, 2016. Russell can, talk about this too, where they had their entire rotation, like guys like Harvey and Syndergaard and DeGrom. They were all being paid like under $1 million, and they were like three of the best pitchers in all of baseball. The Mets were just reaping the benefits of how good they were.
Yeah, Baltimore's got a plethora of talent at their disposal, and like you said, especially at the young and not making nearly a dent into the salary cap or to the luxury tax. So that's going to help them out immensely in the long term, I think.
So, with all that being said, we'll now decide who do you guys think will win the American League East. I might be biased. I'm going to decide if I want to be the biased pick when it comes down to making this selection, but I'll leave the floor to you guys first. Who do you think wins the AL East this year?
Only because they are healthy right now, give me Baltimore.
Okay.
I agree. I have Baltimore as well. I think that young core is so much fun. Plus, like we said, Jackson Holiday is going to get called up this season, and that's just only going to add fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
I think if Cole was healthy, if everyone was fine on that roster, they would have a shot. I think they would have won 95, 96 games if everyone was healthy. I think the Yankees would win around 89, 90. I think that's not going to be enough because I think Baltimore was somewhere around 97, 98.
Baltimore could win 100 games once again. It's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Depends on. Listen, we're talking about baseball March 25th right now. The World Series isn't for another 6.5 months. So anything can happen.
Baltimore's biggest concern is going to be their bullpen. With not having Felix Bautista, I think that is the concern with this team. You got to figure out who's going to be that closer for this year. Is it Yunier Cano, who showed some good signs for this team? Will it be Kimbrel because he already has the experience? That's where it gets down to for this team in winning the division. Now, when I look at this division, I'm going to lean to Baltimore to make the pick. I won't be biased because the issue from the Yankees, and I mentioned it already, the rotation injuries and the already scares that they've had already are concerning for me. And they've dealt with so many bad injuries the last couple of years. I'm expecting them, unfortunately, to have someone in the lineup get injured. We already see DJ LeMahieu was hurt. I don't trust Boston right now; they're not there yet. Tampa Bay, knowing our luck, is probably going to win the division out of everyone just because I can't have nice things. And Toronto, I just don't. I'm not really sold on them yet either, especially with Jordan Romano out. So I'm going to leave with Baltimore as my AL East winner as well. So
and we
our
have
first
a mush.
official mush. But
there we go.
I didn't do that intentionally. No, definitely did not do that intentionally.
So in the interest of the viewers having a cohesive listening experience, I think we should kind of do rapid fire over the West and maybe the Central as well. Kind of look at the bigger picture, not kind of look at every single individual move, but any moves that stood out from us for the AL West. Obviously, they have the winners, Texas Rangers. Congratulations to them. Kind of breaking the
World
curse.
Series. Yep.
I remember watching them when I was a kid, and not really, I guess a kid, but pre-high school, watching George Bush sitting in the stands watching his former Rangers in the World Series. Like, man, this would be cool if the
I
Rangers could win.
actually
And here it
went.
kind of come full circle now, 13, 14 years later after that,
I
and they won
actually
the
went to
World
the old
Series.
ballpark and I got to see George Bush's office that he held at the old stadium that they had in Arlington. I did a tour. Not sure how long ago it was, but this is like a while back. Yeah, no, the Rangers finally got over, got the monkey off their back and finally won the World Series last season. They didn't really make any too big moves, honestly. When you look at the grand scheme of things, I think for Texas, the biggest move they got is going to be having Wyatt Langford, their rookie, getting called up this season. He's now going to be in the opening day roster. I don't know if he gets a starting job yet with the team, but they're another team like Baltimore where they have these young players and they'll keep adding it on and adding it on. And
He's an outfielder, right?
he is an outfielder, yes.
He'll get some. He'll get some.
I
better and
think he
better.
might get some opportunity because he had a really good spring training. I think that's very good for Texas. And think about this also. You're going to get Jacob deGrom back at some point. Max Scherzer is now going to be fully healthy after what happened last season. So the Rangers have a lot of good things going for them right now as they try to repeat as world champs.
Yeah, I personally think one of the more important signings out of the American League West was Josh Hader to the Astros. I think that really solidifies that bullpen into something really dangerous.
It so much because the Yankees were rumored to get him, but yes. Josh Hader going to Houston was a very big move for the Astros. Now you have him and Ryan Presley in that bullpen. The issue for them is going to be their starting rotation. I think that's the biggest concern if you're an Astros fan. You lost Michael Brantley to retirement as well. Dusty Baker is no longer the manager of the team as well. So the Astros are in for an interesting season not having those two on the team, especially Dusty Baker being the manager. But go ahead.
Trust Framber as the number one? That's the question. Do you
I
trust Framber?
I don't really trust a lot of their players in that rotation to be that top guy. Remember, we were sitting here last season saying maybe Framber Valdez could be a Cy Young Award winner.
And he almost had it.
And he almost did have it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm now sitting here thinking to myself, I don't know if this rotation has enough because, Verlander's starting the season on the IL. He's getting up there in age. We don't know what he has left in the tank. But there's a reason they got Hayer. They need a lot of bullpen help because they might be trying to throw a lot of, innings out of relief for this upcoming season.
Now, obviously we saw Ohtani get a record-breaking contract. He's going to be a member of the Dodgers, or he is a member of the Dodgers.
We got to talk about the Angels and what about them? Because
talk about the Angels because they're wasting Mike Trout's career even more at this point.
Well, people knew that already. And you look at what they did
even more now at this point.
You look at what they did in the offseason, they didn't do really much out of the ordinary. So the Angels are pretty much punting away this season once again, unfortunately, for Mike Trout. There really is nothing to say about Oakland either, unfortunately. The A's are they're looking forward to moving to Vegas. That's really what they're trying to do. And who even knows when that's going to happen because after this season, I think this is the last year they'll be playing at the Coliseum unless they get another extension, which I doubt will happen.
Could be homeless for a year.
You never know. But the only other team left is Seattle. I think Seattle obviously has a young team. They have one of the best rotations in baseball, in my opinion. You have George Kirby. You have Luis Castillo. You have Logan Gilbert. He almost slipped my mind, but Brian Wu was a nice addition for them later on in the season as well. The Mariners could be the team maybe to contend with Houston. I'm sure they will contend. They will be a contender in the AL wildcard race, and it's maybe even the division as well with Texas and Houston, because it seems to be that there could be three teams in this division alone that could make the postseason this year. So, with that being said, who do you guys think comes out of the AL West as the division champion?
I personally have Texas winning the AL West. I just think they're, coming off a World Series, provided they don't have the classic World Series hangover, I think they're a little more poised to come out of the gate really ready to go. Not to mention that Scherzer and DeGrom will be available in the second half, which is really when baseball starts to get important. So I think you put all those things together, and it's sniffing a potential repeat.
What do you have, Johnson?
I love how he said the hangover because that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that they are going to I want to root for Texas, but I think they are going to have the hangover. Listen, they already got all these guys already got a World Series. Some of these guys, 24, 25 years old, like Josh Young or Josh Jung. You have the crafty veterans on the team finally getting a World Series ring. So you kind of have this mix of everything of all these guys finally winning. And maybe they party too hard. He didn't take the offseason seriously. You never really know. But I think they win about 90, 95 games. I think Houston sneaks back and they use whatever black magic they use. Maybe it's banging on trash cans again to take this division.
Don't give me nightmares, man. You didn't have to bring that up. You didn't have to.
And I will say Seattle will go as far as J-Rod will carry him. I know he had another All-Star season, but it wasn't as impressive as his first. So I
Last
think
year was an up and down year for him.
Yeah, it was an up and down year. So
Bad first half, great second half.
If he can become an MVP candidate again, I think Seattle has an outside shot as well. But give me Houston.
For spiteful reasons, I'm not going to take the Astros. I think everyone knows why that's not going to happen. I do think the issue for me for them is the rotation. I think that's going to be the deciding factor in this division. And for me personally, I think the Mariners have the best rotation in this entire division. So I'm going to take Seattle to win this division. I love what they have around them. Obviously, they got rid of some older players that they got last season. They got rid of Eugenio Suarez. They got rid of Jarred Kelenic. They brought back Mitch Haniger from when he was on the Giants. They traded Robbie Ray away. And they got Mitch Garver, which I thought was a nice addition for them as well. He could be their designated hitter and provide some good at-bats for this team. He did that for Texas last year. I really think 3 teams come out of this division as a playoff team, but I will take Seattle to be the young upstart team that finally gets over the hump and can win the division title this season.
All right. And with that being said, we have the AL Central now. This division does not have much going on. Let's just face.
So
these are very young teams, and they're developing teams. They have some great prospects, some good rookies. But
this is the division where, in my opinion,
85 games can win.
You can make the case that any of these teams maybe could win the division. I'm not even kidding.
Yep. It depends. Do you want to go lean on youth and go someone like Bobby Witt, or you want to go lean on
Casey's not experience yet? Then they're still obviously trying to build that team up from within. So there's still a ways to go. Minnesota, I think, lost too much in the offseason, and I think that's going to hurt them this year. I think losing a guy like Sonny Gray, who was a Cy Young Award candidate for them, is a big loss for this rotation. They've already had rotation issues before that happened, and now you lose him to the St. Louis Cardinals, so that's a big blow for them. Detroit is in a weird spot where you see them take that next step. I'm not sure if I trust it to happen, per se, but who knows? I think anything's really possible in a win a dime. The White Sox are, they're pretty much tanking. Luis Robert is the only
saving grace
of that team. The only the reason why people will go to the games to go watch the White Sox is for that guy once again. They obviously just traded Dylan Cease not too long ago, so the White Sox are punting away for years from the year's future. And the Guardians, I think, can make the case of probably being the division favorites. They have one of the better rotations in all of baseball. They have a solid closer in Emmanuel Clase as well. The issue is going to be their hitting. Can they hit well enough to get into the postseason? That's been a problem for them for years now. And I think, they didn't really address it as much as in the offseason, which is going to be maybe a concern for them this season. But if their pitching does good enough, they can make it back to the playoffs. I think the biggest thing to watch out for them is if they do have a bad season, watch out for Shane Bieber maybe getting traded during the trade deadline because he is a free agent at the end of the season. So that's something maybe to look out for Cleveland going into the year. But regardless of that, it's going to be tough to pick this one. But who do you guys have winning the AL Central?
Cleveland. I'll go. Russ, please.
Oh, sure. I actually did have Cleveland written down prior to this, but I think I'm going to change my mind to Minnesota, actually. I think Pablo Lopez is very, very good for them. They just got Anthony DeSclafani, if that's how you pronounce it. I might be butchering that.
Anthony DeSclafani, I got you.
Thank you. Didn't make a lot of starts over the last 2 years, just 23 of them. But I mean, it's the AL Central. It's really a toss-up. But I think Royce Lewis, if he can remain healthy, is going to be huge for them. Plus, they do have Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton still, so who's to say? But I like Minnesota.
And we get 1 year with Byron Buxton playing more than 100 games.
Maybe. I feel like happened. I feel like Byron Buxton, as a kid, wished for the best athletic ability when it came to baseball. Like, he got like a genie lamp or like a monkey paw. And it curled up. It's like, oh yeah, but he's this dynamic player, which when he's on the field, he's unstoppable. He's making plays in the outfield. He's stealing bases. He can hit a home run, kind of,
Kind
sometimes.
of. Well, I mean, he is a power. He's pretty much a power home run or a strikeout player now.
Yeah, pretty much now, which is kind of ironic if you look at it early on. But anyway, it's like, oh yeah, you have all these athletic, all this 5-tool complete player, but he can play 80 games a year. That's like the fine print written on his contract. So with that being said, I hope he makes it back. But give me Cleveland. J Ram's going to carry this team. And this is going to sound crazy, but he's going to be 32 years old by the end of the year.
That's
So
kind of
he's
wild.
kind of, yeah, I mean, he's kind of coming towards he's in the golden years of his career, kind of towards the end of his prime. And did we start talking about him maybe making the Hall of Fame? Maybe, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough. I think he's definitely in the Hall, very good.
Yeah,
If not, but
listen,
he is
he's
one
got.
of the best
I think
players
he.
we've had the last decade.
I think he's got about he needs about 4 or 5 more good productive years before he can have that conversation. So he's got to do it these next couple of years. With that being said, if he can do it, good for him. If not, well, he's been MVP candidate the last couple seasons, and he's had a hell of a run. So give me Cleveland.
Uh, I've had such a tough time picking this division for obvious reasons. And the one team that I really want to take, because I feel like maybe they are taking the next step to being good, and I'm gonna say screw it. And this probably will bite me back as we do our midseason update when we go to the All-Star break, and they probably will be in last place, knowing my luck. I'm gonna take the Detroit Tigers to win the division. I think you're seeing this team, they're very young still, but you look at some of their roster, and I feel like they could take the next step. They got veterans like Kenta Maeda and Jack Flaherty to help bolster that rotation with guys already like Casey Mize and Tariq Skubal. And I like what they have in their lineup. Torkelson, we saw a really good improvement for him last
He
season.
was really good towards the end of last season. After the All-Star break, he
Riley
was
Green,
cranking them.
monster second half as well. Kerry Carpenter is a very good home run hitter as well. I like Gio Urshela as a nice utility player that could be a starter as well for them. Obviously, Javier Baez has gone and passed from what he used to be. He's had a really he's pretty much eating that contract up, and the Tigers are unfortunately reaping the benefits of how bad that contract's been. So for us, so for you, that's definitely a good thing that the Mets didn't bring him back. But regardless, I don't like the pick, but I'm just gonna take the Tigers. I just want to see someone other than Cleveland or Minnesota win the division.
So do you think Javi Baez has at any point of the season below 0.5 OPS? Because he was below 0.6 last year. So it's been quite a fall from grace for the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been ever since he left the Cubs, he had a pretty decent stint with the Mets.
Slugging percentage is down 20% from his career high of the Mets. Or
it's been bad. So regardless of that, we'll recap what we have for the division. We all have the Baltimore Orioles win the AL East. I have the Seattle Mariners win the AL West. Johnson has the Houston Astros. Russell has the Texas Rangers. And for the AL Central, I have the Detroit Tigers. Johnson has the Guardians, and Russell has the Twins. If you want to know the odds for these divisions, obviously, I'll pull that up real quickly before we move on to the NL. For the AL East, the Yankees are the favorite right now. Then after them, it's Baltimore. Then in descending order, it's Baltimore, Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Boston for the AL East. The AL Central, the Twins are the favorite, followed by the Guardians, Tigers, Royals, and the White Sox. And then the AL West, you have the Houston Astros are the favorite, followed by the Rangers, the Mariners, the Angels, and the Athletics. So we finished off the AL. We'll go back to that AL talk in just a little bit when we make our picks for the wild cards. But let's now go to the National League, and we'll go into the National League East. And it's up to Russell. We could start with the New York Mets if he wants to. If not, we'll go into another team earlier on, and we'll talk about them first. So I'll leave the floor to you, Russell. Do you want us to start with the New York Mets, or do you want me to go to a different team?
We start with your Yankees. I feel like we can start with my Metropolitans.
Okay. So would you like me to inform what this offseason has gone for the Mets, or would you like to start that one off?
I think you got that, and then I can chime in as you go on.
Okay. We saw the Mets recently just signed JD Martinez, which is a nice move for that lineup. We know that the situation going into season is obviously Kota Senga is out for a good portion, maybe about a month in the season he'll be out for. We don't know the contract status of Pete Alonso going into the year, which is going to be a very big concern for the Mets. this is pretty much a team that is trying to build within, right, for now at least. They had a bunch of salary cap and tax issues that they had to get fixed, and that's why you saw players come and go. They got guys like Harrison Bader, Sean Manaea for their team. They got Adrian Hauser as well. They're just trying to sign players to fill in the gap for now. This is pretty much a bridge gap year for New York, and I'm not sure if you feel the same way, Russell, but I feel like this is a bridge gap year for the Mets for this year because I feel like next season, free agency wise, is where the Mets are going to try to do a lot of spending when it comes to money.
Yeah, I think this year is definitely a bridge year for the team. As much as that hurts to say, we have a lot of 1-year prove-it deals, like you said. Luis Severino coming over from the Yankees, Adrian Hauser, Sean Manaea's got 2 years. Harrison Bader's on a 1-year. There's just a lot of question marks in that rotation, and now with Senga not even starting the season healthy, that really hurts us off the rip. Pete Alonso with the contract situation, he's a Scott Boras client, so the odds of him extending with us without having to go to free agency first is going to be
very slim.
It's going to be very slim to none.
Yeah,
and I'm a little nervous that we even might trade him. Like, not even let him touch free agency.
Watch the deadline. That could happen.
Yeah, so the deadline's going to be a scary time. But what I did like to see was this spring, a lot of our guys I thought looked pretty good. Losing Ronnie Mauricio, that hurt as well because I have a lot of faith in him. But those trades for Verlander and Scherzer to get them out of Queens really reaped in some solid prospects that I like. I liked where our future's headed.
Hey, comments. There's shots. Any comments? But I guess that's your comment.
Sorry, Russ, we couldn't resist playing that. We did that when Sean was on the show, also noted Mets fan. But it seems like it is going to be bridge year. But you did reload the farm. You have Luis Angel Acuna. You have Francisco Alvarez. So you have all these great prospects and rookies that are up and coming. So you have a lot to look forward to.
Now, because we got Russell to talk about his Mets, let's talk about your Marlins, Johnson, and what they did this offseason.
84 games. Let's get it.
They win 84 games?
I'm hoping they win 84 games.
Okay.
Get ready to speak Tim Anderson, buddy.
Yeah,
listen, I mean, Tim Anderson is a great deal because we're going to pay him 17 cents.
You're not paying him anything, so, I mean...
listen, this man knows, like, how can I put this? This is like, the Miami Marlins is like final destination for free agents, right? In the sense of you don't want to get there, but if you are there, you're going to have to fight for your life now. So if he wants to be an MLB player...
I really thought you were about to sing the Hulk Hogan song and you're going to say fight for the rights of every man. I thought that's where you were going for a second.
He has to fight for his life to be an MLB player next year. Because he realizes this is it, right? Like if he does not succeed here, that's it. Like Trey Mancini, he just got cut. So he's done now. He just got cut from the Marlins. Jazz Chisholm, we've heard the kind of nonsense that was going on in the clubhouse the last couple of years. Turns out Miguel Rojas was really toxic. I would have never guessed. Jazz will look great this preseason. This spring training. I'm in football mode right now. Jazz will look great. Looks like he's 100% healthy. Obviously, we're gonna miss Sandy this year. We have a lot of young talent. Yuri Perez dealing with injuries right now. We're gonna have Edward Cabrera also dealing with injuries. So the 1-5, when healthy, may be the best 1-5 in baseball, dare I say. But that's not going to be the case right now. So I'm hoping they can kind of come back. They can look good. Jesus Sanchez is going to look like he's going to be very good again this year. Brian De La Cruz looks like he's going to be very good this year. Obviously, you're going to have a great infield as well this year. You retained what's his name at first base?
Josh Bell. You retain Josh Bell. He's going to be huge because that's the one thing this team needed was a power hitter, and he's kind of... Especially after you lost Soler, you definitely needed that.
Yeah, especially after we lost Soler. Even when we had Soler, it's a little bit difficult, but...
Yeah. Having
Josh Bell completely revamp this offense, and Luis Arias, as long as he can get on base and you can have Josh Bell bring him home, I think we'll look good. So, in conclusion, the offense is not what I'm really scared about. It's really just the pitching this year.
Yeah, injuries certainly have have certainly played a factor in the Marlins the last couple of years. But you did make the playoffs last season, and
We
I
also
think
DFA Jordan Groshans, so I think he's a Yankee now.
he
So
is
have
in the
fun.
Yankee now. Yeah, I did just see that. It is whatever. It's another death piece for us. Who cares? Talk about the Philadelphia Phillies. What they did,
Nope.
pretty. I'll do it quickly, just that way you both don't have to hear
Nope.
it. I'll do it anyway. They signed Zach Wheeler to an extension. They brought back Aaron Nola after a 7-year deal. Whit Merrifield, though, was a very under the radar starting for this team as well. A team that obviously went to the NLCS last season, went to the World Series the year before. They still have a good roster on hand. I know obviously both of you don't want to see them succeed, but they will certainly be a contender in the NL again as well. And I'll quickly go into Atlanta as well. I know both of you
Nope.
hate them as well.
I took off my headphones. You don't talk about the Phillies?
Yeah, no. I have to talk about the
You
Mets.
can take him off. You can talk about the
I'm
Braves.
talking
now,
about the Braves
so.
now really quick because you might want to take them off again. Pretty much, I talked about what the Braves said earlier on. They got Chris Sale from the Red Sox, so that was a nice addition for their rotation, a rotation that's already been solid for them for the past couple of years. And they're pretty much just keeping it put and just staying pat with the roster they have already. We'll have to see if Atlanta maybe is, going to get that second world title that they've been trying to get in the last, decade. Obviously winning a couple of years ago. And then the Nationals, they're still in a spot where they're rebuilding, they're retooling. They have a lot of good prospects in the farm. James Wood, to be exact, is the best prospect they have. Someone maybe that could get called up during the season, but the Nationals are certainly nowhere near getting ready just yet. I think they're starting to get to that point. Maybe they wouldn't be shocked that maybe they get close to 80 wins this season, maybe around 75 to 78, but they're just not there just yet for this team. But regardless, who do you guys have winning the NL East this year?
I plead the fifth. No,
Yeah,
it's gonna be Atlanta. It's gonna be Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I unfortunately have to pick Atlanta as well. I was thinking about picking the Washington Nationals here just so no one could be happy, but I'll pick Atlanta.
I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
that's
the team is
Washington
the
one.
team is too deep, man. They're just so good.
It's pretty much theirs to lose. I mean, I think the biggest contender with them is going to be the Phillies by default, but I think the Braves are just, offensively, they're just a juggernaut, and it's obviously they haven't had good postseason success the last couple of years, especially against the Phillies. But I think that I just would be stunned if they did not win the division again this year. So I will take Atlanta as well, but maybe that's a good thing because we all mushed them. We did the same thing with Baltimore, so this is the second mush now officially of the show. So we'll have to see. Maybe I did. Maybe I helped you guys. You never know.
Oh, great! Now the Phillies are going to
Thanks,
win.
man.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Let's go to the NL West. Obviously, we talked about the Arizona Diamondbacks earlier on the show. They went to the World Series last year. Only big move they really made was getting Eduardo Rodriguez. I think that was a huge signing for the rotation as they try to get back into the World Series this year. San Diego Padres are in a weird spot where they're kind of in the middle of a team right now. They got Dylan Cease just a couple of days ago in a trade with the White Sox. We know what they did with Juan Soto this offseason. And they're going to be in an interesting role for the upcoming MLB season. I'm not sure if they still have enough to make it. They still obviously have some great talent on that team, but losing Soto is certainly going to be recognizable in that lineup for a while for them. So we'll have to see how they go from there. The San Francisco Giants just made some news recently, signing Blake Snell, so he adds now to a rotation that already has a solid number one in Logan Webb. He could now be that number two, especially after the Cy Young year he had last year. They also signed Matt Chapman not too long ago, Jorge Soler as well. So they're bolstering up that line. The Giants, they're trying to get back into the postseason because they obviously have had some misfortunes the last couple of years, and they've seen what these other teams in the division have done in this offseason. As I already mentioned, what the Padres have done. I mentioned what overall what has gone down. Colorado, I'm not even going to bother. They haven't done anything this offseason. They pretty much are still kicking the can towards probably 10 years from now at this point. And then lastly, it's got to be the Dodgers we got to talk about. What they did this offseason.
Oh, how they assembled the Death Star?
Yeah.
What did they do? I don't think I heard anything.
If you thought the Yankees had the Death Star in the early 90s, or late 90s, early 2000s, yeah, this probably takes the cake. They traded for Kyle Glass now. They signed him to an extension. They signed Ohtani to a $700 million deal. They signed Yamamoto. to a deal. Teoscar Hernandez they signed.
They got Tyler Glass now.
Yeah, I was saying Tyler Glass, so they got him in a trade with the Rays and then signed to an extension. I feel like there's someone else that they signed not too long ago or traded for.
They got Kike Hernandez back.
They got Higuera Hernandez back. Yeah, that's just great. I'm so
I
happy
do want to point
Dodgers.
one thing out. The opening odds on the Dodgers to win the NL West when it opened in Vegas was -250. The public threw so much money on it's now -600.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that right now. I'll actually go back to the NL East real quick. The Braves are the favorite in that division, followed by the Phillies, the Mets, the Marlins, and then the Nationals. Braves are -280 in that one. But yeah, the Dodgers are a very heavy favorite. I think we all agree that they are. It'd be stunning if they didn't win the division. So I think we're all in agreement that the Dodgers will win the NL West this year.
Yeah, it's if they don't win it, there's a problem. I think they could win 120 games.
I
I'm being dead serious.
I think the biggest concern is going to be when they get to the postseason. Are they not going to choke? Because that's been the issue.
Who's the manager?
Dave Roberts. That's the problem.
Oh, that's your answer.
I know. I agree with you. Dave Roberts, if not for that title in 2020, he would have been gone by now.
The Mickey Mouse ring?
Yeah, he should have been gone by now. So we'll see what happens. But the last division that we'll lead up for is the NL Central. This is another wide open division, in my opinion, because I think a lot of teams can make the case to win the division. The Cubs, had a very on and off season. They got Cody Bellinger back just not too long ago. So getting him back in the lineup, especially at the deal that they got him for, is a very good sign for the Chicago Cubs. Obviously, they missed out on Ohtani. They were never going to get him, let's be honest. They got a manga, the Japanese pitcher, to come to the team now as well. We saw the St. Louis Cardinals sign Sonny Gray this offseason, so now he gets added to the rotation, but he will start the season on the IL, so that is something to note for this team as they start the year. They brought back Matt Carpenter. They signed Brandon Crawford. They're getting very older for some reason, and I don't think that's the right approach, in my opinion. So, kudos, guess good for the Cardinals. I don't know. The Pirates are still very young. I think they're not there just yet, but you're obviously waiting to see when they call up Paul Skeens at some point. I would assume it's going to happen during this season. You're going to get O'Neal Cruz back at the end during this season. Remember, we saw him get injured during the midway point of the year and was out for the rest of the season. Very happy to see him back as well. Another year of Andrew McCutchen playing for the Pirates. It's always good to see that as well. The Milwaukee Brewers are going to have a very rocky year, in my opinion. They traded away Corbin Burns, obviously, to the Baltimore Orioles. They did lose Devin Williams to an injury. He's going to be out for the first 3 months, I think, of the season. They signed Rhys Hoskins. They didn't really do much to sign Gary Sanchez. Sure. Whatever floats your boat makes you think you could be a little bit better this season. I guess you go from there. And I'm trying to think of the last team I'm forgetting. I know I'm missing someone. Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Thank you.
Come on, you gotta talk about Ellie De La Cruz.
I know.
I know. The spring. I was about to say preseason again. The spring training he had.
Well, the concern is going to be, can he consistently keep that up? Because you saw last season that was the biggest.
Bingo.
That was the biggest concern with him. He had a monster start the first 3 weeks, and then the next couple of weeks, he just was downhill from there. And he was kind of up and down. That's why he kept moving up and down the lineup. But other than that, they made some, moves for their rotation. They got Frankie Montas to now be added to that rotation. They're a team that's still younger. This is now a new identity. Now with no Joey Votto on the team, it's going to be the first time in a long time that they don't have him on the roster. And now they go into the season trying to figure out what they have going for them. The biggest concern now is it looked like Noelvi Marte was going to be a guy for them this season, and now he got suspended for 80 games. So he will not be playing 80 games for the Reds this season due to, I think he had PEDs. I think that's what the reason was. I know it was something, one of those performance-enhancing drugs. But regardless of that, losing him is a big no-go for the team. But they have a lot of young players that maybe can get them back into the postseason because they were close last season at one point to maybe making it back to the playoffs. But overall, who do you guys think comes out of the NL Central as the division champs?
Me personally, I'm going to go with the Reds here. I think Ellie gets it together, and I think they have a magical season where they win 87 games.
Okay. That's
a fun pick.
That might be all it needs to be done to get them in.
That's a fun pick. I'm personally going to roll with the Cubs for my pick. Getting Cody Bellinger back, hopefully last year wasn't just a fluke good season, after because he was up and down ever since that insane 2019 he had. I think that was his rookie year. But I think that the real piece that's going to help them is if Seiya Suzuki could put together one full season of good baseball like he did in the second half of last year.
Yeah.
I think that's going to propel him over everybody else. And like you mentioned, the Cardinals are old. I think the average age of that rotation is like 36. I'm not sure how sustainable that's going to be
They got Lance Lynn back
for
in the fold.
162
That's
games.
huge.
Dude,
Hey,
big.
Lance Lynn might put together
They've been saying that for how many years now?
4 years.
Yeah. It's another one. Like I would love the Reds to win. I would love them to win. And I picked them to win last year, I think, when we got the midseason mark, maybe. For different reasons. I think when it comes down to it for me, I agree with Russell. I think the Cubs are probably the team to beat. You look at what they have on their team. You have Dansby Swanson, Patrick Wisdom, Nico Horner was a great player for them last year. Christopher Morel has great power in his bat. They brought back Bellinger. Seiya Suzuki's still on the team. Ian Happ also is a very good player for them. Obviously, they lost Marcus Stroman this offseason, but I think getting a manga, hopefully, if he pans out correctly for the team, that will certainly help them in the rotation. The rotation is going to be the biggest concern for them. Justin Steele is going to be the reliant player for that rotation to get them back into the playoffs. But I will take the Cubs to win the AL Central. But again, it kind of feel like how I did with the Tigers. I'm not really too confident in it, but I'm going to just go off of it regardless. So to recap for our division winners, we all have the Atlanta Braves win the NL East. We all have the Dodgers win the NL West. And then for the NL Central, Russell and I have the Cubs. Johnson has the Reds. So we have our division winners set. Now we have to decide who can get into the playoffs as a wild card team. 3 in the AL, 3 in the NL, obviously. I'll leave the floor unless you guys want me to go first. Who do we all think can get into the playoffs as a wild card team for this upcoming season?
So I think we should do the 3 teams for the AL and the 3
Yes,
teams
we'll
for
start
the
off with
NL.
the AL first.
So the 3 teams I have getting the AL, at least being in the playoffs as a wild card. I didn't have them as my division winners. I could easily see them winning the division. Yeah. It's going to be the Yankees, the Texas Rangers, and the I was going to say the Seattle Supersonics, the Seattle Mariners. Excuse me.
Okay.
They'll have a really fun shot. Have a really great chance to make this make the postseason, especially if J-Rod can develop a little bit more. If the Yankees can get healthy, and if Texas just kind of continues their magic.
I forgot to mention, by the way, also for the NL Central, the Cardinals are actually the odds-on favorite to win the NL.
They are, but I don't care. I noticed that. I do not care.
I cannot believe that either. But regardless, Russell, who are your 3 teams to make it as a wild card team this year?
I mean, I completely agree with Andrew here. Outside of the Houston Texas flip, because we had different division winners, I think it's going to be the Houston Astros, the New York Yankees, and the Seattle Mariners.
Okay. Ooh. Well, I mean, I would be doing a disservice for myself if I didn't take the Yankees in the playoffs. I think they still get in regardless. I think it's just going to be concerning of the rotation gets, good enough. The last 2 wild cards is where I have trouble with because I think I mentioned earlier, I just can't see a scenario where the AL West doesn't have 3 teams making it. The Astros should make it. They have too good of a team not to, unfortunately, not to make it. And the Rangers should as well. I'm not going to put that in that exact order of how the wild cards will go for me, but I think we pretty much all agree that the 3 wild cards should be any combination of the Yankees, Mariners, Astros, and Rangers for this year's AL postseason.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
that's an easy one.
I think the only team that I would, if I had to pick someone other than that to make it, would probably be Toronto. I think Toronto has still good enough a team to make it, but I just don't think they're better. I mean, hopefully for my sake, hopefully they're not better than the Yankees, but I really think Jordan Romano, I mentioned it a lot already, but I think losing him is a huge miss for that team because I don't know who their closer is going to be this upcoming season. So we'll see what happens for that. But now let's go to the National League. Who do you guys have making it in the wild card for this year's NL teams?
Well, I gotta have my Marlins in here, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might as well.
I know they're plus 300 to make the playoffs. So I don't really care. They're probably gonna win 72 games, and I'll be pretty upset about that. So 90 loss season incoming. But give me the Marlins, give me the Padres, give me the Cubs. Kind of a long shot in there of the Padres, and I think the Cubs are kind of a safe pick, but those are my three.
Okay.
Yep. So I have the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres. I don't think the Padres are as much of a long shot for it as you're giving them credit for. They did lose a lot, and like a lot, but they still have Tatis, they still have Bogarts, they still have Machado, they still have Musgrove. Like they have a lot of people who, if they can put it all together, I think they're gonna sneak into the wild card.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. They still have all that talent, but they couldn't put it together last season, so that's why jury's kind of still out. But we'll see. And I'm not gonna pick the Phillies because you know why.
I mean, listen, if I could replace the Mets with the Phillies, I would. I wanted to be
That's
realistic with
exact.
myself,
That's
and I want
exactly
to get
what I
my
did.
hopes up.
Despite of Johnson not picking the Phillies because he doesn't want to see them in the playoffs again.
I mean, I like seeing Philly in the playoffs because I like seeing them lose in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's a silver lining, I guess.
Yeah.
Listen, for 15 years, Philadelphia Phillies they were allowed to go 500 and below each year, and that was it. Now all of a sudden they think they can make the playoffs. No, not anymore.
I'm gonna give you a bold take, boys. I don't think San Diego makes it this year in the playoffs. I don't have them make the playoffs this year because I think they have two other teams. Obviously, the Dodgers. I'm not counting them in this conversation, but there are two other teams in that division. I think that are better than them personally on paper. I have the Diamondbacks making it back to the postseason as well. I think Eduardo Rodriguez was a huge get for them, and they obviously have Zach Gallen, who's a Cy Young candidate, and Morel Kelly. That's a formidable top three in your rotation. And I love with the Giants at these last couple weeks, getting Blake Snell, getting Matt Chapman, getting Jorge Soler to add to this team that has a solid team on paper. I like what the Giants are doing right now, and I think they could get back into the postseason this year after a couple bad years that they've had, regards of luck wise. I think San Francisco gets back in, and I don't think San Diego makes it at all. I don't have the Padres making the playoffs.
I actually teetered with San Francisco myself, Nick, especially with Jung Hoo Lee out of Japan.
Yeah, I forgot to mention them.
Yeah, but the verdict's always out on players coming over. You never know.
Yeah, you
but
never know.
they signed him to a 6-year, $113 million contract. They obviously see something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought about them too. Not to mention, I'm not sure if you mentioned Matt Chapman.
I did, yeah, Matt Chapman, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they got a shot too.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. But now with us having our playoff teams, and we'll do a little, and recap when we finish up the show. But let's now go into our awards, and let's start off with the AL Rookie of the Year, and we can give our pick to win the Rookie of the Year, and obviously maybe if you want to, we can give our dark horse for it as well. Who do you guys have winning AL Rookie of the Year?
So I've been waiting to have this pick since 2020.
Oh, not again.
You know exactly where I'm going with it. I know exactly
where you're going with it.
There was a man from Arkansas who tore up the SEC, and then he had a heart condition, and he was out of commission for a couple of years, and now he is back.
Doing this again.
I am going to be taking Heston Kjerstad of the Baltimore Orioles to win AL Rookie of the Year.
2,000 odds.
I do not care.
That could have been your dark horse pick.
Nope, that is my regular pick right now. Right. I'm that confident.
You don't have to give a dark horse. You could just give the regular pick.
No, this is my regular pick. I do not care about the dark horse because this is the pick.
Okay. Russell, I guess go ahead because I'm kind of at a loss of words.
Yeah, I'll be real with you. Not at all the name I thought you were going to bring up.
I should have known.
My pick, I personally like Wyatt Langford out of from the Texas Rangers a lot.
Yeah.
And then my dark horse, Parker Meadows out of Detroit. I think if he gets called up this year, there's a good chance that he might lead off that entire lineup. So we'll see. Hopefully he gets called up.
Yeah. I don't hate that at all. I think he's another interesting aspect, and hopefully for my pick, because I picked the Tigers to win the division, so maybe Parker Meadows can help them. I'm going to go with a team event Wyatt Langford, though, to be my Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go with Evan Carter. I think Evan Carter, we saw what he did last postseason. Got called up a month before the postseason run, and then we had a monster postseason for that team. It would be easy to pick Jackson Holiday to win this. I just don't know
Especially when he's not even the best Oriole on his team. The best Oriole rookie, that'd be crazy.
All right, I'm not going to just ignore that comment. I don't know when he gets called up. That's the issue for Jackson Holiday. And I think Evan Carter, we know Evan Carter is going to be an everyday starter at the beginning for this Rangers team. And I think it would be, I think you could see the scenario of Carter and Langford battling it out this season on the same exact team to becoming this year's, AL Rookie of the Year. So regardless, I would take Evan Carter to become my Rookie of the Year. And then my long shot, I'm going to go with Nolan Schanuel of the Los Angeles Angels. They need someone other than Mike Trout to be a good player, right? He was, called up last season, had some good at-bats for them down the stretch of the year, and now he's going to be their starting first baseman this year. I mean, you got to attract the folks to get to the stadium other than Mike Trout, and maybe Schanuel does that for them this year. So Schanuel will be my dark horse for the AL Rookie of the Year. But let's now go to the National League for the Rookie of the Year. Who do you guys have winning the NL Rookie of the Year?
I think we're all going to take Yamamoto. Are we agreed? Are we going to agree there?
Yeah, I know he got shelled over in Seoul, but that's just one game. I think over the course of the year he's going to figure it out.
It's one game, right? So are we all agreeing on Yamamoto right now?
But yeah, it's going to be him.
Okay, so my dark horse is going to be Paul Skeens.
Okay.
I think he has a lot of potential, and the Pirates are going to need more help sooner rather than later. So I think they're going to call him prematurely.
Yeah, you think he's up to get called up this year? I wasn't sure.
He'll be called up at some point. He's not making the opening day roster.
Yeah, he's going to open this season with AAA.
He's bound to make it.
That I saw.
The Pirates need to also bring people into the stands, and they have a beautiful ballpark. I mean, you obviously want to bring much attention to that stadium. Paul Skeens will bring you that attention, surely. Do you have a dark horse for Russell for your pick?
Yeah, I really like Jackson Merrill from the Padres, and especially, like I said, kind of like you, like I picked the Padres to make the playoffs, and hey, a Rookie of the Year would help their case.
Yeah, that definitely would help them. So that's not a bad pick. I like Jackson Merrill. I think he could be good. I'm gonna go with. It's tough because I want to say James Wood, but I don't know how long it will take the Nationals to call him up, and that's my concern with picking him. So I picked this team to win the division earlier. I'm gonna go with Shoto Omanga as my dark horse. I for my sake and for the Cubs' sake, obviously, they are gonna hopefully he's good for them this season, and I'm just trying to make sure that it all covers all my assets for when I pick my division winner. So might as well go with him to be my sleeper pick or dark horse pick for NL Rookie of the Year. But now going from Rookie of the Year, let's go now to MVP awards. Who do we think wins the American League MVP this year?
I really like Julio Rodriguez to win MVP personally.
Oh, okay.
Because like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, he had a not so great first half of the year and an absolutely insane second half, all with a phenomenal Gold Glove caliber. I think if he could just put that together for the full 162, and I feel like I've said that about a bunch of guys so far today, but still,
yeah,
if he could put that all together, I think the MVP is his.
Can I just point out? I want to point out something on the odds for the MVP. Mike Trout has plus 2,200 odds to win MVP this season, and that's
my pick.
That's lower than Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt to know.
Yeah.
So is Mike Trout your pick?
Yeah, don't sleep on Fishman. He's going to come back. He's going to hit 40 home runs.
Odds.
He's going to have 40 stolen bases, and he's going to lead the Angels to 79 wins.
Like I know the Angels. I know Trout's had injury issues the last couple of years, but I feel like if you were just saying like,
I think it's disrespectful.
I'm not a betting man, but if I threw $10 on Trout to win, like that's insane value. That's insane.
Yeah,
I can't believe that. I honestly was stunned. That's a multiple-time MVP winner.
The overestimation of Trout's demise is being heavily overrated. I think he's going to have a great year. I mean, he had probably one of his worst career years, but he's due for a bounce back, right?
I forgot. Yeah, I mean, for the Angels, they're hopefully trying to so. But do you guys have a dark horse? By the way, I don't know if Russell, if you mentioned your dark horse for MVP, and then I'll Johnson.
I didn't. My dark horse is Royce Lewis from Minnesota. I said,
okay.
He's just another guy that like he's been so good when he's on the field that is just really his Achilles heel is that he just cannot stay on the field. He was a rookie I think 5-6 years ago and Has he played even 100 games yet? I'm not sure.
Maybe
But
Juan
I think
Soto.
he's a fun one, especially if the Twins can win the division.
Okay.
Now, my dark horse, I think he's better than Adley. So let me go with Gunnar. I've been saying this for a while.
You have said that for a while.
I've been saying this since they were prospects, and I think they kind of proved it towards the end of last season. He's not getting the same respect on the odds makers, but give me Gunnar Henderson as my dark horse.
So this guy that I'm going to take, I'm telling you right now, it might sound biased, but I have a theory why this is going to happen. I took him for the NL MVP last season too, which is kind of fun.
I already know who it is. Spit
It's
it out.
Juan. I'm going to pick Juan Soto, and we all know why I'm picking him. It's not even for the Yankees. What's going to happen to Juan Soto after the season? He's going to be a free agent. You obviously see all of these players in their prime playing so good in a contract year where when it comes to offseason time, they get a big ton of money. We saw that even with pitching last season. Blake Snell won the Cy Young. Obviously took him a while to get signed, so that's another story for a different day. Maybe not the best example, but regardless, you see these players do this all the time where they have prime seasons, they win MVP awards, they almost get MVP awards, get it into consideration for it, and then obviously get a big bag in the offseason from these teams. Juan Soto, in my opinion, is going to do this. I think he'll have an MVP year. That'll be a big reason why the Yankees could get into the playoffs. It was a wild card team for my stance, and obviously Juan Soto is going to want to get paid a lot of money considering how young he is, and there will be teams next season that will certainly throw him the bag to win after if he wins MVP. They'll certainly throw him money after this offseason. So I will go with Juan Soto as my MVP pick. And my dark horse would be I'll go with Bobby Witt. He just got a big time extension with the Royals. He obviously wants to make sure that all that money is worth it. I think he'll make it worth it this season. I think you'll see maybe a potential 40-40 year from him. He can really steal base passes as well. I would not be stunned if we see a 40-40 year this year from Bobby Witt Jr.
All right, I think that's going to kind of wrap up our AL.
Let's go to the NL MVP.
NL MVP. I'm going to say Shohei Ohtani.
Okay.
I'm going to say Shohei Ohtani.
Are you a gambling man taking Ohtani?
I'm not a gambling man. You have to talk to Asian about that.
That's Ohtani might be.
And my dark horse, I'm going to take Manny Machado.
Manny Machado, okay.
Manny Machado. I may have all these guys for fantasy purposes, but this has no influence on that whatsoever. But Machado is he had a really bad start of the year last year. He's not going to have that again. So if he just does what he did the last half of last season, puts it together, and I know we've said that probably 15 times tonight.
Yeah.
But it's going to be Manny Machado this year. He's going to have a bounce back season.
Okay. Russell, who do you have for this?
So my favorite is going to be Ronald Acuna.
I know how much that pains you to say that.
It really hurts, but ESPN is projecting him to have a worse year than last year, and a worse year projection-wise is 38 home runs and 56 stolen bases. Not to mention his defensive prowess. It hurts, but I think it's him. But my dark horse, I'm actually going to throw Corbin Carroll into the race.
I like that. I like Corbin
Carroll.
Which
it's kind of weird to say that the reigning Rookie of the Year is a dark horse for any award.
Yeah.
But the NL is just so top heavy when it comes to MVP candidates. I think his odds, if you're a betting man, are favorable. And I also just like the way he plays the game.
Okay. It's kind of, my pick's going to be funny considering I said earlier that this team is not going to make the playoffs. I'm going to go with Fernando Tatis. You're looking at the Padres now, and you see that they're starting to get a little bit thinner now in terms of this team's identity. And now Tatis is once again, obviously, still has been, but he's once again now the face of the franchise now with Juan Soto no longer there. You look at guys like Ohtani and Betts. My issue with picking them is them being on the same team. Is that going to ruin both of their chances of odds-wise of winning the MVP? And especially considering Ohtani is only going to be batting this season, I think that harms his MVP odds. I think Ronald Acuna will have another great year, but I think everyone was kind of looking at Tatis last season and kind of saw a down year from him. I think he bounces back in a huge way this year, wins MVP, and despite that, I still don't think the Padres make the playoffs. I think the pitching is going to be why they don't make the playoffs. But my dark horse, I'm going with Austin Riley of the Braves. I think numbers-wise, it's going to sound bold. I think he'll put up better. I think he'll put up more home runs than Ronald Acuna this year and more RBIs than him. I'm going to go on a bold statement and say that's going to happen this season. I think Austin Riley takes that next step. I'm going to have him as my dark horse win NL MVP. So now we'll go to the pitcher's side. We'll go to Cy Young Award. Who do we have winning the AL Cy Young?
Framber Valdez. I said it last year. It has to happen eventually, right? And for my dark horse, give me Pablo Lopez. I think they have an equal chance as talent-wise, but I think Pablo's team is a lot worse, and that's why he's a dark horse.
Okay. Russell?
So we were talking about contract years, if I'm not mistaken. Corbin Burns is on a contract year, and I think that him being only 29 years old is going to be my favorite for the American League Cy Young. His strikeout rate and his whiff rate dipped a little bit last year, but he still put up a phenomenal season. So I think he's going to be my dark horse, or my favorite rather. My dark horse though is I think it's going to be Garrett Cole, partially because he's starting the season injured, provided his timeline isn't as long as, or isn't just that long entirely.
It's a month, yeah.
Yeah, for your sake and for my pick's sake, I hope it's only a month. And also like repeats are tough. Repeats are always really hard, but that's why he's my dark horse.
It's kind of funny that the dark horse for someone is the reigning winner of that exact award. So it's kind of a funny scenario that we have, and I mean I'm not laughing considering it's obviously my pitcher, from my favorite team that has that injury, but my pick for Cy Young is going to be Tariq Skubal for a couple of reasons. I picked the Tigers to win the division. I have Tariq Skubal in fantasy also, so I'm hopeful that he's going to have a monster year. I'm concerned about Corbin Burns being in the AL now, going from the NL to the AL. I think that is something that maybe could harm him, but he's also in a contract year, so maybe he gets it done. I love what Tariq Skubal brings to the table. He was injured all of last season mostly, got called, came back from injury later on. I think he can win it this season. He's been a dark horse for a couple of years now. I think you finally see that next step taken from him this year. And my dark horse, it's probably going to be biased again, too, considering he's on my fantasy team. I'm going to go with Grayson Rodriguez. I saw what he did last season. He had a very rocky start to his MLB career, picked it up as of late, and I think he's going to be the better pitcher of the two between him and Burns this season, personally, for the Baltimore Orioles this year. So that's another bold take I'm going to take this year for when it comes to these awards. So Grayson Rodriguez will be my dark horse for the AL Cy Young. But now let's shift over to the NL Cy Young. Who do we have winning that prestigious award?
Give me Spencer Strider because his strikeout ratio is crazy. And give me Zach Gallen because he's on my fantasy team. No, just kidding. Zach Gallen's been criminally underrated the last couple of years, and now that he's on a team, dare I say, in the spotlight this year, or at least to start this season, he's gonna be in the spotlight.
Well, they won the World Series, so yeah.
So give me Zach Gallen because he's been getting better each and every year. And give me Spencer Strider. I mean, these are two obviously the young pitchers. They're hungry. They're not really in contract years yet. Both former All-Stars, and but give me Zach Gallen. He'll put it together maybe towards the end of last year. I think he finished top 5 in Cy Young voting last year.
So too, yeah. I think he was top 3.
He was top 3, and I think it was maybe it was Strider that was right outside the top 5. But I don't see Blake Snell getting it again.
It was Blake Snell, Logan Webb, and then Zach Gallen with the top 3.
Okay,
Strider actually finished number 4.
Strider finished 4. Gotcha. So yeah, I think one of those guys, 3 or 4, is gonna get up there. So one of those guys.
Okay, Russell.
Yeah. So I don't know why, for some reason, NL Cy Young is my most biased picks all night. But I'm not picking Spencer Strider or Zach Wheeler as my favorite. I am picking Logan Webb.
Okay.
He's had one of the lowest walk rates in the entire league. So I just like what he can put out on the mound. And my dark horse is going to be Kodai Senga. After a full year of American baseball, plus he got Rookie of the Year, and I think Cy Young votes last year. I think now with that experience, he's going to take it up to the next level, provided his injury, like Garrett Cole, is not like a long-lasting thing.
The Ghost Forkball is gonna lead him to victory, I guess.
No. God, I don't even know. I think I took Strider last season, and I was obviously disappointed considering his ERA was very high. That's the reason why he didn't finish in the top 3. Shoot. For me, I'm gonna go. I'm not really too. I'm gonna go with Zach Gallen to win it. I'm not too confident in that one. I think I did. I might have done that last season too. I don't even remember. Or it was either that or it took Strider. I know it took Zach Gallen at some point, but Strider, I feel like is too obvious. I think he still has that concern of giving up a lot of home runs, despite the strikeout rate's insane. But he does give up a decent amount of runs, and obviously you're expecting him to win a Cy Young at some point. Maybe this year is the year to do it. I will take Zach Allen for now, and my dark horse is going to be Justin Steele from the Chicago Cubs. I think we saw some good strides from him last year for this team. I think he's really taken that next step to being that true number one for this Cubs rotation. And if I want to see the Cubs make the playoffs, I think Justin Steele has to take that next step to being a top tier pitcher in the MLB. I think he does it this year as a potential dark horse for the NL Cy Young. So with the awards being done now, let's now get to the nitty gritty, the final part of our show, picking our winner for the AL pennant and the NL pennant to ultimately get to the World Series. Who do you guys have winning the AL pennant?
Houston?
Disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to do it, right?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I know. Well, listen, I won't really go into it, but
yeah, no, thank you.
Feels like it's inevitable.
Yeah, Houston is inevitable. That being said, I kind of like Baltimore. I know I put them to win the AL East, but I don't know. Maybe they're such a young team. They're fresh. They got some like hunger for it. So I like Baltimore out of the American League.
I was struggling between them and Baltimore, them and Houston. So Baltimore would have been my second pick.
I don't even know. I'm not even gonna bother with the Yankees because I'm just gonna mush them like I did last year. I put them in the World Series and then they obviously didn't even make the playoffs. So maybe by not talking about them in this conversation, maybe they make it for my own sake. I doubt it though. I will go. Screw it. I'm gonna go with Texas. Why not? I want Creed playing once again. Put them in the World Series and give me a live Creed concert before Game 1 of the World Series happens. I want it. Give me the Texas Rangers in the World Series for the second straight year. Let's go to the NL now.
Dodgers. I mean, they have to do it this year, right? If not, it's a cursed franchise.
Hey, but I got news for you. Dave Roberts, you mentioned earlier, still matching.
I know he's still magic, but I feel like I have to pick them, right?
I know. It's tough not to pick them, but
it's so hard not to pick them, dude. Like they're just so talented.
Is that where you're going to, Russ?
Nope, I'm going with the Diamondbacks. I would love to see Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia all crash and burn in the playoffs. Run it back with Arizona. They're a fun team to watch.
I get behind that.
That's a fun World Series, Baltimore and Arizona. I could definitely get behind that as well. Yeah, I really don't want the Dodgers in it either. Like I'm like looking at this now. I'm looking at my teams in the playoffs. And I really, really, really don't want the Dodgers in the World Series. But I'm going to put them in the World Series, and I think I'm doing this because if Johnson and I are both on the same page for the NL, then maybe we just mush them enough to make them not make the World Series this year. So hopefully Dave Roberts' effect still is in place. I'll take the Dodgers regardless to win the NL pennant. So we have our World Series matchups. Johnson has the Astros and Dodgers. Russell has the Orioles and Diamondbacks. I have the Rangers and Dodgers. Who do we have winning the World Series, guys? This is the last segment of the show. We have our matchups. Who do we think comes out on top this year as the 2024 World Series champion?
Dodgers over Astros, and that pays 15-1 on FanDuel. You're welcome.
How many games? You want to pick any games? Or you play it? You don't have to.
6 games.
All right,
give it 6 games.
All right. Russell, who do you have winning between Baltimore and Arizona?
I got the Diamondbacks in 6, and I think that's just going to go off of Arizona being there before. But I think it's going to be a fun series.
So you have Diamondbacks over Baltimore?
Over Baltimore in 6 games.
Well, that pays 170-1, Russ. Just letting you know right now.
Wow. All right, for the fans at home, free money.
170-1. You could turn $10 into $1,700.
Just keep in mind, I want everyone to know Russell last year picked the Yankees and Mets to make the World Series. Both proceed to crash and fall with injuries and all of that other spiel during the season.
I just can't pick the Dodgers or the Phillies or the Braves. No, I just can't do it.
I completely understand. Listen, I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it either with the Dodgers. I just looked at my playoff teams. I'm like, well, I can't make the case for the Cubs. The Braves, you could make the case for, but knowing them, they'll probably lose to the Phillies again, and I don't want to see the Phillies in another World Series. And I originally was going to take the Giants to be that team, but I don't think they're there just yet to make a World Series trip. So for me, Rangers and Dodgers, I can see it now. I just mentioned Creed concert. Game 7, Arlington, Texas. Actually, no, it can't be because the Dodgers will be home field. Never mind, because the Rangers are a wild card. Okay. Game 6, Arlington, Texas. Creed live
Anything for
concert.
Creed at home.
Yes, a Creed concert before they win it. Then they get the Creed concert with fireworks after. I will take the Texas Rangers at 6 games over the Dodgers because I don't want to see the Dodgers win a championship this year.
Pays 35-1, by the way.
Okay, I can live with that. I can live with that.
So decent odds. I took the obvious favorite here, and the guys did a little bit more. I don't want to say outlandish stuff, but still, it's all plausible. I mean, listen, Tampa Bay to beat Pittsburgh is 1,000 to 1. So there's people out there placing that right now.
Go ahead, put Oakland in there and see what happens.
Oakland? I don't even think they would give you odds.
I doubt it. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on, they do.
Can you do it Oakland and Washington? World
every
Series?
Oakland World Series winner involves 1,000 to 1 odds.
If anybody hit an Oakland in the World Series bet, I think like any official from the sports book is coming to you and knocking on your door.
They're 100% time traveling if that's the case.
Yeah, they got the almanac from Back to the Future.
It is all 1,000 to 1 odds, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So hey, Oakland to beat any team. If they win the World Series, $25 goes to $25,000. You can buy yourself a brand new car. So who knows?
Yeah. But before we wrap up tonight's show, guys, any last thoughts before we wrap this one up and get ready for Thursday's official opening day in this year's MLB 2024 season?
I would just like to thank Russell for coming on again, and we appreciate as always. We know this ran a little bit long today. We do appreciate the patience today for everyone. And Russ, please come back anytime you'd like, and I'll leave the floor to you now.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. As always, excited for another great year of baseball, even if my Mets are not going to be terribly competitive. But hey, you never know. It's the glory of baseball. There's lots of games to play.
Was it that? Did someone say play the song?
I didn't say anything.
Okay, I didn't say it either. No comment. Yeah. I'm ready for more misery and heartbreak as well. Obviously not to Russell's extent because I have no right to say that, but I'm expecting more injuries this year for the Yankees. So hopefully they make the playoffs and I just, I guess can be excited about October. But I'm excited regardless for this upcoming MLB season. I know everyone here as well. Thank you, Russell, once again for joining us on the show this week. We look forward to having you once again. Johnson, you and I are now done this week, as tomorrow we will be recording our episode talking about March Madness this season. It's certainly been a wild start to the March Madness tournament for the NCAA. We'll talk about that a little bit later on tomorrow in our next episode here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. But for Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, as well as this week's special guest, Russell Gaudet, this is the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you tomorrow for the NCAA recap.